Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And today, bringing you your preview and everything else you need to know for the big Premier League clash, Brighton v Tottenham, with special guest Scott. But look, before we get into everything, make sure you hit that like, make sure you smash that subscribe button as well. Scott, how are you keeping?
Good. Yeah, feeling a little bit better than I felt yesterday after 24 hours to process that result. And as always, glad to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, no problem at all. We've been meaning to get onto something to do something together for a while. Of course, you've had me on your Chicken Ball podcast. It's a great podcast. I recommend everyone to get over and check it out. Do you want to plug it quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the chance. Like David said, you can find us at Chicken Ball Pod on Twitter. As much, an entertainment stream as a podcast, but we're just, here to banter and talk shit and whatever else you need out of a Tottenham pod after a result like Liverpool yesterday. So.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's a great pod. Anytime I've been on it, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and of course, we have some great conversations on it. But look, before we get into, usually I start off with some stats, everything you need to know. But before we get into that, Scott, the reason why we're putting this up late tonight is because we have a message we want to reach as many people as possible. And that is basically that, look, as hard as it was to take the Liverpool result, as gut-wrenching as it was, as spineless as the performance was, basically what we want to tell everybody is to get behind the team. Scott, you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks. I agree. As we've talked about off the air quite a bit, that there's a lot of negativity on Spurs right now. We see the word Spursy, the Dr. Tottenham will see you. It's flying around a lot these days. And, as much as us fans want the team, to play with a stronger mental approach and, have confidence in themselves on the field to win matches, I think as fans, we need to practice what we preach. And also make sure that we're confident in our approaches and that we're backing the team. Players do see things on social media. Whether it affects them or not is up to them. But if we're putting it out there, they're seeing it, and who knows what effect that has on them. If they don't have the confidence of the fans, I don't know if they're going to have full confidence in themselves. It all goes back to backing Jose, backing the players, trusting that processes are in place. It hasn't always looked pretty, but if you look at the full scope of the season, where we're at in all competitions, it's probably a little bit better than a lot of people even expected. So, let's take a step back, take a deep breath, get behind the team, and back Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree with you. Look, for me, criticism was deserved after Thursday night's game against Liverpool. It was one of the worst performances we have seen in a long time. But one thing I do want to say is, let's pick ourselves up. Let's dust ourselves down. Let's get back behind the boys. Let's get back behind Tottenham. Let's get back behind Jose. At the end of the day, if we want them to kick on, we also have to forget about Thursday night and kick on. Let's focus on this game tomorrow against Brighton. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's go and get the 3 points, and let's march forward again. At the end of the day, look, the club did come in for a lot of criticism after Thursday, and rightly so, in my opinion. But look, let's show everyone our full support, because like you were saying, Scott, they do look at social media and everything else. And so hopefully this message does reach them. I hope it does personally anyway, because, look, no matter how much sometimes we can get frustrated, let's all, like, they do play for the club we love. They represent the badge that we love. And we just need to get behind them fully, and let's start giving them their support. There's no better way to do it, and no better time to do it than after a humiliating result against Liverpool. And now is the time. And I fully agree with you, Scott. That was a great way of putting it. So thanks very much for that. Look, we'll get into a few stats for the game. Or sorry, we'll do everything you need to know first. Look, it's away at the Amex. Kickoff is at 7:15 p.m. and it's on Sky Sports Premier League if you want to watch the game, which I have no doubt everyone will. And then a few stats. Brighton have lost 5 of the last 7 Premier League games versus us. Brighton are winless in their last 14 Premier League home games, which stands well for us. Tottenham have lost just 1 of the last 12 away Premier League games, and the last defeat coming against Liverpool at Anfield. So look, Scott, the stats don't lie. We have a good away record, and Brighton have a very poor home record. Would you read too much into that, or do you think like the stats are never wrong, and that we should go there and win, even though we don't have Harry Kane?
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of the stats, we always want to be approaching a match to win it, but I do think that the stats do play a factor. So I think they're worth looking at. Brighton, as you said, haven't been great at home. They really haven't. I know as we talked about, we're going to see things like, well, Dr. Tottenham will see you. And those are the things that we got to cut out as we go down to Brighton, and we got to walk in expecting a win. Kane's out. It's definitely of concern. I think a lot of people have asked the question, if one of either Son or Kane were to go absent for a while, what would that do to our attack? And, you look at the ratio of those two and their contributions versus the rest of the team, and it is cause for concern. But, as you and I have talked about a lot off the air, we have a manager who is well equipped to get through adversity. And, you can question his decisions, his methods, but he's left everywhere a serial winner, and he's left every club, probably bar United, in better shape than it was when he got there. And I put that as much on the Glazers and the board, as Jose Mourinho. And so I really think that we got to have faith that we have the right guy at the helm to see us through this pinch here. And he'll find a way to do that. So whether it's Vinicius, whether it's Son, I don't know if it's a Gareth Bale, but you could even mention his name, but Jose will find a way to get us through this. And I expect us to go down to Brighton and get a win.
100%. I couldn't have put it better myself. You heard it first from Scott. Jose is the man to deal with the adversity of Kane being out. It's absolutely brilliant. Just on while we're talking a bit about Harry Kane. Look, with Harry Kane in the team, we have a 56% win ratio. Without him, we have a 43% win ratio. Now, obviously, that would have been taken into account times where we didn't have a recognised striker when Kane was out. Does that record concern you, or do you think we can start to put that right against Brighton?
It's concerning, yeah, it is. And the thing is that every season we know we're going to go about a month to 6 weeks without Kane, and I maybe thought that we had found the solution to that in Vinicius. And, I know there's been a lot of criticism from the fans towards the board regarding the backup striker situation. We know that bringing somebody in, they're going to compete with Kane. That's not going to be attractive to somebody who wants to play football. But at the same time, you want somebody who's willing to compete and isn't willing to just like roll over and take a backup position. We want them competing for minutes. So that's a tricky balance to find. And we thought we'd maybe found it in Vinicius. So I think this will give us the opportunity to see if we have found that. He hasn't gotten a lot of Premier League minutes, but he really hasn't needed to. And I think Kane kind of demands minutes when he is healthy and available. And so, again, we'll have an opportunity to see if we can right the ship. But to answer your question, it's a little bit concerning, and kind of goes back to the whole idea that, Kane and Son have scored so many of our goals. They're going to have to come from somebody else, because him and Son cannot do it all. There's no way we're going to be able to get through this pinch without Kane if somebody else doesn't step up.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And it's time for boys to turn into men, really, and start chipping in with the goals, in my opinion. Look, we're going to move on to a bit of team news. So for Brighton, Tariq Lamptey and Danny Welbeck are out. Now, Lamptey is a huge miss. He's a right back, right wing back that a lot of people have become fans of. I think he's had a very good Premier League campaign so far. Look, Danny Welbeck, I'm not really too concerned. He's ex-Arsenal, he's scum. I don't want to give him too much airtime, but he's always injury prone. So, well, whatever team he's at, you always expect to see him on the injured list. But look, Tariq Lamptey out at right back, that's huge for us, isn't it?
Huge, especially with our left back situation or left wing back situation. And it's interesting that Davies didn't play at left wing back, I think, against Liverpool. He does put in a good cross, and he's also a polarizing guy. But I think if you can give him a little bit of a release from a defensive perspective, which he's a good defender, but if you give him that release and allow him to focus on his delivery and width, I think he can do a good job there. So I was surprised to see that. What I'm getting at is I'll be curious to see if he does play left back against Brighton or if he's still, involved in the middle of the park. And he's actually been pretty good as a center back. But either way, it's huge that Lamptey's out because there's a good chance he would carve up whoever he was going to be up against out there on the left-hand side. I think I worry about Adam Lallana a little bit. And honestly, the last time we played them, I had totally forgotten that he even played for Brighton until like the 20th minute when he was on the ball. But I think, we've been a little dicey in the middle at times. And so I think he's somebody who's a smart player and can give us a few issues. But I do think with Lamptey out, there's a good opportunity. Jose can find a way to control that flank and put us in a position to, which it would be Son, allow Son to find some good opportunities to get on the ball and find a goal or two.
100%, 100%. And look, then on the Tottenham team news, of course, we have Reguilon out, which was a huge loss. He was a big miss against Liverpool, in my opinion. You still have Lo Celso out injured. They say Dele Alli's out injured. We're not 100% sure. We reckon that could be, kind of to do with the transfer market. I think once the transfer market closes and he hasn't left, you'll see him back fit. But the big one is Kane. But no, Scott, like for me, anytime Son's played up front, it's no fault of his own. I just think he's a lot better on the left. I think when he plays up front, he kind of drifts out of the game a lot of the times. He's not as involved. For me, I think his strongest position is on the left. And I would actually start Vinicius against Brighton. And if it's not working, take him off and bring Bale on up front. What would you do?
I like that shot, actually. I think Vinicius could start up top and do a good job. I would like to see us play some sort of like 4-4-1-1 or even a 4-2-3-1. They're not much different. And this is actually Dakota, who you know well. Shout out to him. He had mentioned this the other day, and I think it's a good idea. But he had mentioned Tanguy playing behind Vinicius in a 4-4-1-1, and I think there's something to be said for that. I just think Tanguy could find a couple of Vinicius's really smart runs, and he's fast and strong, and I do think he makes really smart runs actually. And so, if we're going to look to counter, I think Tanguy right behind Vinicius would be a good option with like PEH and Sissoko behind them or something like that. So I wouldn't mind seeing Vinicius up top. I think that'd be my preference. I will say a bit of a hot take. I would kind of like to see Dele start up top as a striker. And I say this for a few different reasons. One, I think he is somebody who is really good on the end of a play or the end of a run. Makes really smart runs as well and is good with his head. Something that's pretty effective in a low block, I think. And then he also can, as Kane does, drop back and get involved in the buildup. If we're looking to just find a like for Kane, I think Dele could actually do that. I think lastly, it would give him a chance, or Jose a chance, to sit him down and say, your team's in trouble. Like, how badly do you want this? This is your moment to step up and help your team. So I'd like to see that, but I think if I'm a betting man, I'll say Vinicius gets a start, and I won't be upset about that.
Yeah, look, that's it's not a bad shout with Vinicius up front and Dembele behind him. And it's not a bad shout with Dele Alli either. I can't disagree there. For me, I actually think it could be time to put Dele back in the team right now, especially with the pain everyone's going through right now. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put Dele in the team, and like you said, sit him down and say, look, now it's your chance. It's up to you what if you want to take it or not. The boys are hurting. I'm hurting. You've been hurting. This is your game. Go out there and get us a few goals and stake your claim. That's exactly. It's a great shout, Scott. To be honest with you, I haven't even considered it until you brought it up there. Absolutely brilliant. Look, Brighton, they've had more shots this season than us. They've had more crosses this season than us, and more passes this season than us. But look, we're Tottenham Hotspur. We're European giants. Do you think we should go and approach this game kind of sit back, soak up their shots, their passing, their crosses? Because let's be fair, they don't score an awful lot of goals. It's their biggest problem. They just don't score goals. So do you think we go there, we sit back, soak it up, and try and catch them on the counter? Or do we rock up cocky, big-headed Tottenham Hotspur and try and play them off the park?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked that question. I've been thinking about that, and I actually would like to see us take the game to them a little bit more. And
Yeah.
I look at the Sheffield match. Sheffield's a team that's brave. To a massive fault. I think they put themselves in position they're in because they've been a little too brave and just didn't finish well enough as a team. But anyways, back to Brighton. I think they are going to take it to us. And so I look at the Sheffield match. We played that back three with a high line, and I think maybe Jose's found a way to use a back three, and still maintain some discipline or integrity at the back while maintaining that high press.
Yeah.
I was kind of actually surprised we did that against Liverpool because I think it is effective against these teams that
Yeah.
that we want to maybe take it to at the bottom of the table. So, anyways, like to see the back three with a high line, a high press, and with Kane out, whoever makes up the front three, they're all going to be pacey, powerful players. Like no matter what, Kane he's fast, but he's not going to have the pace of a Vinicius or whoever it is, even a Bale. So I think we could really benefit from a high press and taking the game to Brighton.
Yeah, 100%. I feel the same. I think we need to go there. We need to take the game to them and see what happens, because I do believe we have enough to win this. But one thing that worries me is our lack of clean sheets. And it's our goals from set pieces and crosses that we just fail to deal with time and time again. And for me, I think one thing we do need to be wary about is they have an awful lot of players who are 6 foot plus. They're a very tall team, very physical team. So if they get any balls into the box, especially corners or free kicks, if we give them any chance, they're going to pile the men in there and attack the ball with a bit of aggression and attack it knowing that there's a good chance they're going to get onto the end of it. Does that concern you?
It does. Set pieces have been a problem. I think, against Liverpool, crosses in general were an issue, and Liverpool could have scored 6 or 7 goals. To be completely honest, Hugo Lloris had a massive game, among some errors, but he still had a great game and made some big saves. So it does concern me. It's interesting because we're not conceding a lot of goals from open play, but I'm noticing that whoever makes up the center back pairing, they're having a difficult time communicating when teams are making runs. It will look at the surface like the center back who was up against the runner made the mistake, but if you watch it back, it always seems to me that the partner is not necessarily covering in the way that they should be, and maybe not just reading or anticipating their partner very well as to whether or not they're going to step or drop or whatever it is. And so there just seems to be a disconnect in the communication amongst the pairing. And so I think we benefit from just figuring out a pairing and sticking with it. And I think that's going to be Dyer and somebody. But until we figure that out, to answer your question, it does concern me, and it's going to continue to concern me until I see it better, done better.
Yeah, 100%. Just on the centre back pairing there, Scott. For me, look, I understand why Jose sticks with Dyer. It is because of his age. Alderweireld it's going to be his last season at Tottenham, in my opinion. Yeah. And then you have like Sanchez and Rodon. So for me, I think he's using Dyer as his long-term centre back until he can get a signing or two in. I understand it, but for me, I actually think he needs to be dropped this game. I think he hasn't had a good game since the Man City game. Look, even the Chelsea game, he had a good game, but he was just poor on the ball. For me, I'm calling for him to be dropped tomorrow. I would actually go with Toby and Rodon tomorrow myself, personally. Not to say that Dyer deserves to be dropped for the rest of the season, but I do think he needs a wake-up call. So for me, I would go with Toby and Rodon. Who would you go with tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I am a Dyer fan, and so I'm always tempted to say Dyer, and I think I'm tempted to say Dyer mainly because I think Jose does see Dyer as somebody that he can kind of execute his defensive game plan through on the field, and trust that Dyer is going to understand the direction and make sure that people are acting accordingly. And so I do like to say Dyer and someone, but I will say I wouldn't mind seeing Toby and Rodon. I think Joe Rodon's looked really good. I think he made that error was it Mane that scored that goal?
I can't even remember. I think it
Their
was,
third
yeah.
goal. But
Yeah, it
whoever
was Mane.
their third goal, we know he made that error, and I'd like to see Jose say, to Rodon, those things happen. Do not let it affect your confidence. Get back out there and shut Brighton down. And then I think I'd like to see Toby given a chance just to really see if he's been pushed by being dropped, or if he, is content to just play a bit part role until, like you said, he probably leaves this summer. So I wouldn't mind seeing him given a shot to step up and improve himself. So if it's Toby and Joe Rodon, I'd be okay with that. And maybe that's kind of a cop out to your question, because I do always want to say Dyer, but I will say that Toby and Rodon would be something I'd actually like to see.
Yeah, I think it'd work, to be honest with you. I also think it'd give Dyer that little something to think about, that maybe he does need to buck up his ideas and get back to the way he was playing when we were top of the league. I actually don't think the goal against Liverpool will affect Rodon's confidence, purely because of his reaction after. He was absolutely raging with himself, which you didn't see from what you'd call our experienced back defenders when the first goal went in. So I actually don't think it will affect Rodon. I think he's a good character. I think he'll be able to deal with it, and I think he might even come back stronger than ever. That's my opinion. And boy, I hope he does, because we definitely need it at the back. Look, Scott, I have a couple more questions for you before we head off. Key battles. For me, I think Vinicius up against whoever played against Lewis Dunk and whoever else plays beside him. Look, I don't think we should be putting long balls up to Vinicius. I think we should be looking at putting them in behind the back four and turning them, because their back four isn't exactly, or back five, whatever to go with. They don't exactly have much pace there. So for me, I'd be putting the ball in behind, and I think Vinicius would be a key player to look out for. I also think Son up against whoever plays right back or right wing back now is going to be absolutely crucial. For me, Son is our match winner out there tomorrow. And look, he has missed a couple of big chances. Like, he missed that massive chance against Fulham that would have put us home and dry. He missed that massive chance against Liverpool that would have put us 1-up and would have bred confidence throughout the team. But he's still our match winner out there tomorrow. He's going to be crucial. And of course, you have Tanguy and Ndombele in the midfield. I do think he needs to put Sissoko in beside them. I think it's glaring obvious that you do need Sissoko's work rate. So for me, I actually think Tanguy is going to be important tomorrow. Look, for me, I actually don't think he had the best games against Liverpool. I thought his kind of work rate off the ball was exposed a bit against Liverpool. One thing he does have, he has that key pass. He has that key pass that no one else in the Tottenham team can see, and he has it. So for me, they're going to be our key players. Of course, Højbjerg as well, the general. I think you're going to see, if Adam Lallana does play, he's going to try and drop in a lot of space behind Højbjerg. But for me, Højbjerg's too clever for that. Højbjerg will absolutely clean it up. Who do you think are going to be our key players tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think Tanguy is going to be the biggest factor, because if we are going to depend on Vinicius and Son both, we're going to need Tanguy to be delivering and really being involved in that final product. Very important. I do agree. PEH as well against Lallana, who I mentioned earlier, is a concern for me. But Sissoko is going to be important. I think that's a really good shout. And I'll say, anyone who follows me knows I do have a Sissoko bias, so bear with me here. But I really think we missed him against Liverpool. I think I had mentioned on a podcast earlier in the week, or whatever it was, everything kind of bleeds together right now. But against Liverpool, I didn't like that we went back with the back three, because I do think it allowed Mane and Salah to exploit some space. And so, I think anytime you're concerned with a team that's that good exploiting space, behind your wing backs, Sissoko's the guy that can really help there. And so I was a little bit surprised by that. So he'll be fresh. I really think he's going to be very important, and I think he's going to have to be the guy that allows us to, keep them quiet, but also break quickly when we need to. I think he does get a lot of stick, maybe unfairly, about not being as good on the ball as he needs to be at times. And there are times where we could probably benefit from somebody who's a little bit better on the ball, but he's really good at reading space and moving the ball quickly. So I think he'll be a big part of our approach tomorrow.
Do you know what? I'm a huge Sissoko fan as well. For as much as quality he lacks on the ball, it's the off-the-ball work I admire. It's the dirty side of the game that not many players want to do nowadays. You don't see many players wanting to put in the graft and the hard work and the desire to win the ball the way the chap does. For me, I actually think when he plays, you don't need to play a back three with two wing-backs. Because what Sissoko does, he's very clever, is that when our fullback bombs on, he tucks in behind the centre-back. So it already gives you a three at the back. So for me, I actually don't think when he plays, you definitely don't need to be playing fullbacks or three across the back. For me, I actually think he's going to be very important in there tomorrow to turn ball over. And I think we missed a trick against Liverpool. I think if he would have came on, there's no way they would have tied around with us at our home stadium the way they did if he was in there, because his work rate, he wouldn't have allowed it. For me, Harry Winks, anytime the guy plays, we get overrun. And it was clear to see Liverpool were breaking at will against us. Do you know what I mean? But look, are you confident going into this game? And tell me your score prediction.
Yeah, I'm confident. I am, and I think for some of the reasons that we've talked about on this show, I do think Jose is going to have us prepared. I do think he's going to ask a couple guys to step up and recognize that it doesn't look great right now, even though it's actually really okay. It doesn't look great at the surface, and so step up, get your team through a pinch, and I think that'll have a bit of an effect and a pull. But yeah, I think ultimately we're just going to be set up in a way that's going to be able to keep them quiet. Like you said, they're missing probably their biggest threat when you look at our injuries right now. So I am confident. I'm going to say 3-1 Spurs. I do think we'll concede a goal, but I'm going to call for Son to step up and score at least a goal or two, and I think a goal from Vinicius. So somewhere in there, it shakes out to a 3-1 for me. Yeah,
100%. I actually said the exact same thing on Charlie and THFC's preview earlier on, and I think we're going to win 3-1. I think Son will be our match winner. I think he'll get 2, and I think Vinicius will get 1. So, you know what to say, Scott? Great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
Well, look, there we have it. There's your preview for Tottenham versus Brighton tomorrow. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. A big thank you to Scott for coming on. A big thank you to the Harris Army and anyone else for tuning in. And look, Brighton are off the back of a 0-0 against Fulham. Tottenham are off the back of a defeat against Liverpool. It's time for one of us to put it right. What I will say is Seagulls, which is Brighton's nickname, they are sneaky. They tend to attack when you're not looking. But we're Tottenham Hotspur. We're European giants. Let's go. In Jose we trust. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.